Hello everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Vape channel. Before we get started, really quick, I just want to say be on the lookout this week for the coil giveaway video to be posted. I'm going to post it sometime this week after I posted this video to start that giveaway. Anyway, today we're going to be taking a look at the RELOAD RTA by Reload Vapor USA. It's sort of a mix between the Petrie RTA, the 24mm version, and the Kylan RTA. And if you remember from my video on the Kylan, I said that I was sort of looking forward to that design being evolved further. I was excited to see where that design would go, and I feel like this tank is sort of the next step along that path, kind of refining that design. So let's go on and take it off and take a look at it. I feel like it's just a really simple, clean, and really great looking design. I like the etching on here and the top cap, and it doesn't try too hard to look fancy the way that the Petrie does. It just looks simple and clean, and I really like it. It comes apart in the same way that the Petrie does. There's no juice flow control. It just screws into the chimney there, and the deck is kind of closer to the Kylan than the Petrie. But it doesn't have two separate airflows for each coil. So on the Kylan, it has kind of a center airflow and a side. This is all one airflow going from here to there, but raising up on the side so that airflow can hit and run along the side of the coil. And I like that better than the Kylan because I could never quite get the coil position to take advantage of both of those airflows without going too big on the diameter, which messed up the wicking. So to me, it's just a simpler, more refined design of that, and I like the way that this design works better. As far as actually building on it, it's a postless design, obviously, super easy to build on, and the kind of slots that the legs go in are a lot deeper on this RTA than they are on other postless ones. So it's a little more forgiving on how long or short you cut the legs. Any postless design that I've used, you've had to pre-cut the legs, and you still do on this one, but there's a lot more room. It feels like all the way down to where that insulator is, maybe a little bit shorter than that, but it goes quite a ways down, and that makes it a little bit more forgiving as far as trying to get all four legs cut perfectly. So let's go on and zoom in and go through the dry fire. This is a unframed staple build with 12 pieces of ribbon in there and 40 gauge wrap on the outside. So before we get started on the dry fire, I just wanted to point out, now that it's zoomed in, I've got these coils very close to the airflow slots, and you can see a little bit better what that airflow looks like now that it's zoomed in. It's sort of just a little notch for the coil to sit in, and right now they're sort of perfectly placed to take advantage of the airflow from this side hitting directly on the bottom and running along the side. Alright, that was super easy. I just brushed on it a little bit. I didn't really have to do much adjusting, and it's good to go. So let's zoom out just a little bit and talk about wicking. The wicking on this, it's like all of these RTAs. It's really important, but it's a little bit more forgiving than the Petrie, and definitely more forgiving than the Kylan. I've been wicking this. I've tried maybe 3 or 4 different methods, and I've sort of stuck with this method that I'm going to show now, and that's basically having it clogged up at the top but not filling up those cups, and I'll show you what I mean. And I'm going to be using Kendo Gold on this. Okay, so I'm going to cut it right about here, somewhere along these threads. And I'm going to just lightly brush it out, not too much. And I may have to trim it up a little bit. I'm just going to put it in there and see what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see, those holes are completely clogged, but it's really not packed in there at all. It's pretty loose. And now we're going to add juice. And it refills through threaded top fill. Okay, and I think we're ready to give it a try. I'm going to have the airflow all the way open at about 110 watts. The airflow feels about as restricted as the Petri does, maybe just a little bit more air. So a fairly restricted feel to it, but definitely in the territory of a lung hit. It's just a slightly restricted lung hit. And with the staples that I have on here and the wattage that I have, that kind of causes a really warm, dense vape. More warm and dense than the Kylan with an even bigger build in there. The Kylan has a lot more airflow. And I've noticed the performance on this, when you wick it the way that I have, it can be a little bit wet when you go to refill it. There's no juice flow control, so you have to just rely on the way that you wick it. And it can be a little bit slightly oversaturated on refill, but I haven't noticed any leaking at all. It's just ever so slightly oversaturated. But I'm okay with that. It really doesn't bother me. In terms of flavor, this tank is absolutely at the top. It beats the Kylan and the Petri with no issues, and it goes right up against the Modfather, the Aromizer Plus, the Gaia. The juice that I have in here, I actually prefer this to the way it was on the Gaia, and that's saying something because I really like that juice on the Gaia. But the flavor on this is just absolutely excellent. I really love the performance on this. And I like the drip tip. It kind of took me a little bit to get used to the way it feels with those little notches in there, but overall I really like the way it feels. Yeah, just really warm and dense, and probably the best true RTA that I've used. So there's really good RDTAs out there, and good RDAs and all of that stuff, but for an actual RTA, I would say this is the best that I have right now. And I've been using it daily since I got it. I really just absolutely love the way that it performs, the way it tastes, and how easy it is to build on, and all of that stuff just at the top of my list. So a couple things that I don't like about it. The capacity is fairly small. As you can see, I really haven't vaped it very much, and the capacity is already down quite a bit, and that's partially because of how I have it wicked and the staples in there. That's just going to use a lot of juice, and if you're going to have good flavor, you're going to have lots of juice consumption. That's just the way it goes. So a pretty minor con there. A bigger con to me would be availability and price. This is basically the same price as the Petrie. So I paid $75 for the black one, and I think the stainless steel one is $70. But they're not really available. There's vape shops that have them if you're lucky enough to live next to one that does. But if you aren't, which the closest vape shop to me that had it was like a 2.5 hour drive. I'm not going to drive 2.5 hours to get it. I'm going to order it online. The only way to order it online that I saw was through an app called Vape Block. That's a little bit incomprehensible to me, why they would make it only available through that app. That's kind of a pain to me. You got to install an app and set it up and everything and use a credit card. And I think they should try more to make it more available. Get it through companies that use PayPal or anything to make it more available and purchasable by people. Otherwise, there's no way to really get a hold of it unless you have a credit card and you want to use the app, or you're lucky enough to live next to one of the shops that sells it. And it seems to just be a continuing problem with RTAs or RDTAs that are really, really good. They're like these small batch run sort of things, not huge companies, and they're just hard to get a hold of. The Modfather is still really hard to get a hold of. This is not that hard to get a hold of, but it's not widely available like the Gay or the Kylan or the Aromizer. You can find those anywhere online. There's no problem getting a hold of them. This, not so much. So if you don't mind using the app, or you have access to one in a vape shop, and you're looking for a kind of top tier RTA, this is going to be at the top of my list. I can't really over exaggerate how good the flavor is on it. I've gone through probably 120 milliliters of the juice that I like in this in probably 3-4 days. And I use a lot of other mods and atomizers and stuff, so that's saying quite a bit for me to go through juice that quickly on one tank, because I'm always changing stuff up, and I usually have 4 mods with me wherever I go. So that really says a lot about how much I like the flavor and performance on this. So yeah, I really highly recommend it. It's a little expensive, a little bit hard to get a hold of, but it performs extremely well, and I really like it quite a bit. So that'll bring us to the end of this video about the Reload RTA by Reload Vapor USA. If you like this video on our channel, give us a like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or send me an email. And be on the lookout for the coil giveaway in the next couple days. Thanks.